So there is that strategy, and that works very well. I've got a lot of clients through that process where we send individual videos to people through LinkedIn and Facebook and just try and say, that's the individual I want to get in front of. Here's the video for that person. And we do a lot of that because it gets the right sort of people when you know who you're targeting. And that's a big part of any business, is understanding who you want to do business with, not just what message do you have.
Hi, I'm James Taylor, business creativity and innovation keynote speaker, and this is The Creative Life, a show dedicated to you, the creative. If you're looking for motivation, inspiration, and advice while at home, at work, or on your daily commute, then this show is for you. Each episode brings you a successful creative, whether that's an author, musician, entrepreneur, performer, designer, or thought leader. They'll share with you their journey, their successes, their failures, their creative process, and much more. You'll find show notes for this episode, as well as free training on creativity, over at jamestaylor.me. Enjoy this episode. Hey there, it's James Taylor, and I'm delighted today to have onto the show Tom Breeze. Tom Breeze is the founder and CEO of Viewability, a company specialising in YouTube advertising, boasting an impressive list of international personal and corporate brands. With a pay-for-results financial model, Viewability and Partners are now one of the world's leading performance-based YouTube advertising companies. Tom is also a speaker, author, and consultant teaching businesses around the world how to advertise successfully on YouTube. His new book is called Viewability: Harness the Power of YouTube Ads and Be There for Your Customer When It Really Counts. It's my great pleasure to have Tom with us today. So welcome, Tom.
Thank you, James. That's a very nice intro. And looking forward to the interview.
So share with everyone what's happening in your world just now.
Right now, it's agency. I'm always focusing on agency. That's the big part of what I do, and we have a lot of big clients that are always demanding our time, and rightly so. And so I'm always working on building a team, developing better operations, and making sure this things run really smoothly, and we're getting results for clients. And so that's been like a big, long battle that was been going on for years, probably. I mean, we're really good at it, don't get me wrong. It's just there's always room for improvement. I feel like we're really good on lead gen, and we're really good on customer acquisition. We're really good on delivery, but that's our main thing, right? So we need to make sure we're always keeping ahead of the game and understanding how we can learn what's happening, how to improve things, and keep on testing new ideas and making sure the team knows exactly how to run that as well. So that's become a big part of the agency growth, understanding how we can train our team successfully to get the very best results for clients, and how I can also be looking at strategy to enable to make sure we're doing the right thing every time as well. So always working hard, and it's been a really enjoyable and exciting journey up until this point, and long may it continue as we move more into the training world as well. So that's kind of a new venture for us, bringing out books and courses and that type of thing as well. So yeah, it's all go, and it's all very exciting, and it's a lot of hard work.
So I love the book, and in fact, our team I just got back from doing a thing. We filmed a whole bunch of videos based using some of the campaigns, the ways that you talk about using YouTube campaigns. And as I was reading the book, I thought, this is like one of the hardest types of books to write in some ways, because the industry changes so quickly. If you're writing a book about, public speaking, let's say, there's some classic things that don't really change there. So as you went into writing this book, what was your mindset? What did you want to achieve in writing this book?
So whenever I read books that are very, very specific on strategy, then I tend to find that can sometimes be a little bit outdated, but also it's a difficult read as well, because you end up looking at the book and then thinking, well, now I need to go and implement something, and I'm going to have to come back to the book. And it always has always broken down for me in some way, shape or form in the past. It's great from a video course perspective, because then you can be like, right, I'm actually doing what you're asking me to do, and that could be updated. But when it comes to a book, yeah, you're right. It's not easy to write a book on it. It took me 3 years to end up finding someone who can help me write it and get it right. Because I'm really good at video, and I feel like my communication level is good, but to sit and write a book is difficult for me to do. So I ended up working with a company that helps me write it. And so it wasn't a ghostwriter or anything like that. It was much more a case of kind of planning it all out together, and then kind of me writing it and then tweaking it to make it actually an enjoyable read. But the whole intention to begin was to feel like I love reading books where I can be on a flight for 3 hours or something, read it. I don't have to kind of be paying a huge amount of attention in order to understand it. But I get to understand how a really important concept works, and that for me was what I wanted to write. I wanted to make sure people could pick it up, read it, and be like, I've got a really good knowledge about how YouTube ads works now, and I can use that for my business. And I'm still going to have to go in and start building some campaigns and shooting some videos. So there's that still needs to be done. But it feels like I know what I'm doing now. I know the strategy. I know how YouTube works. I know how video works. I know how campaigns should be built. I know what offers to put out there to make sure that we can put $1 in and get more than $1 back, repeat that process, and have a really reliable stream of new leads and new sources of customers coming through to grow a business. And so for me, it was more a case of how do we take a 30,000 foot perspective, but also dive into some of the detail when it's needed, so that it enables people to be able to actually run successful YouTube ad campaigns, but not getting into all the real nitty gritty in the book itself. Yeah. There's kind of resources to go with it, but it just means that people can read it, understand it, and be like, I can see my business thriving on YouTube now. And that's kind of like the intention behind the book.
And I think your book goes very well with like Ryan Levesque Ask, which also has that type of thing where there is obviously strategy at the front end, but then, I mean, you could read that book and you could build kind of campaigns based upon that as well. So it was very tactical, very actionable as well. How did you get so good at YouTube campaigns? Where did it all begin for you? When did you move into this space?
So my first business, well, actually, if I go back before my first business, I studied psychology at university. And then after that, I went in to do my master's as well. So I feel like that carried a lot of the foundational knowledge that I understand about how to get people to see a message and action it, basically. So I feel like that underpins a lot of what I've learned over the years. I can probably say that of my 5.5 years worth of education and university and my master's afterwards, there's probably only about a year of it that was really, really perfect for advertising. But it's just that understanding of how the brain works and how people behave and how you can change that as well. And having that knowledge really kind of gives you that foundation. But I started my first business, which is a communications business. I did a lot of training on public speaking. But with the psychology background, it was much more a case of how to overcome the anxiety and fear of public speaking to begin with. And I used to work with people one-to-one to help them develop their confidence and be able to speak very eloquently in front of a large crowd. And I remember doing it for a group of business owners. I'd kind of funnily enough, I'd run my business. It was working really successfully. And I put a video on my website and on my landing page where I was sending most of my traffic from Google AdWords, I would kind of run all my ads to this one page. Instead of just text and images, I'd change it to a video and text and images. And my conversion rate on that page tripled overnight. And so I had 3 times as many leads coming through for the same amount of ad spend. And I was like, wow, there's something in this video thing. Now, with more and more leads coming through, I ended up doing a workshop, like a more than one-to-one. I did like a group of people who are all business owners. And at the halfway through kind of the event that I put on, it was a 2-day event, I had a few people come up to me at the middle of the first day. And they were like, hey, I love what you're teaching about the public speaking stuff. I really want to understand how I can do it for video, because I have to do some videos for my internal presentations, or I have to do some videos for clients, or I have to do some videos for my website. I'm looking to see how to do that. And they'd just seen one of my videos on my website, and they just wanted to replicate it. And so that was when I realized that people are looking for this video stuff. And I started working with them to actually present really confidently on video, and just filmed it. Didn't really know anything about lighting or microphones or anything like that. So it was more a case of just kind of a bit ghetto style when I first started it. But people loved it, and people were like paying a lot of money to do the videos. And when we started creating them, I just got better and better at production all the time, and realized it's not that difficult. Good light, good mic, good kind of good little studio that you might be able to build, and you can make it look really, really professional. And as a result, kind of I started creating these videos, and a lot of the business owners were like, this looks great. What can I do with this video apart from just put it on my website? And I was like, well, you could put it on YouTube, I suppose. And I just learned how to take a few of my client videos and start kind of putting some right keywords, descriptions, tags, and learn a lot from Gideon Showick, who's still a really good buddy today. And he taught me a lot about how to get videos ranked. And then I actually partnered up with a guy in the past, and he ended up becoming like the SEO guy that would actually rank all these videos for clients that we had. And they were getting we're getting amazing rankings. And with some of our clients, we started becoming like an SEO agency just purely for video. And that was how we grew the business. So it kind of merged and morphed from a public speaking training company to a video marketing company, I suppose, more than anything else. But then after a couple of years of running that business, the SEO world started dying on its feet. It wasn't as predictable. It wasn't as easy to get results any longer. And I could just see the death of not gaming the system, but just knowing that kind of putting keywords and titles and descriptions in place and then doing some clever backlinking and press releases. And I just realized that a lot of that was a lot of hard work. And my first business was run off Google AdWords. And so when I saw this kind of decline in some of the results of the SEO world, I started advertising some of the videos out of my own pocket to try and basically retain the clients who were dropping their rankings. And as a result, I took one of my clients' videos, put it up on YouTube, and worked out how to advertise the video. It was a really good video around public speaking, so it was a subject I knew quite a bit about. And we started getting many, many more leads for that client than we were doing with the SEO. And when I calculated the cost of running the ads and spending money on ad spend versus the amount it cost on staff to keep all the work going for the SEO campaigns, I really just made a lot more sense to go into advertising, because we could then just master hundreds of keywords very quickly and get so much more scale, and the client just loved it. And so from there, we've kind of kept with this model where I fund the advertising and clients pay us for results. And it just works really well because we have a really close relationship. But I'm in such an unfortunate position to do that, because what ends up happening is I can go and spend money on tests and my education about what works, what doesn't work, without having to go and spend client money. I'm spending my own money to get results. And if I learn one thing from one client, I can apply it to all other clients. So we're constantly testing and improving. And that's kind of coming back to your first question, which is like, what you up to? It's normally stuff like that, testing and working out what works, applying different strategies and techniques together to get the best results. And that's really where I've learned my craft, I feel, is like just looking at the data, understanding how we can improve that data constantly. And it's hard work, but it's really rewarding, because you start to really understand that some of the principles that a lot of people teach just don't make sense in the YouTube ad space. Yeah. And YouTube advertising is a completely different game and needs to be viewed completely differently if you want to get the very best results for it. And that's why I feel like my book that kind of tackles a lot of that. Talks about actually what works on YouTube and why it's different to every other platform.
Because one of the things, as I was reading your book as well, I thought, I wish every single professional speaker could read this book, because I always feel that the video, I mean, it's the number one thing that, let's say a conference organizer, they're organizing a conference, the first thing they're going to do is they want to look at the video, and they'll go and look at videos, and they'll go into YouTube. It's like the number one place. And even if you're not a professional speaker, if you're a musician, a performer of some sort, YouTube is the number one place. But it seems to be, you mentioned this use of data, unlike when you go up on stage, even if you're speaking 100, 200 times a year, the data you're getting is essentially, the faces are lighting up and you're getting applauses and you're getting 5 stars. But what you can do, you're getting huge amounts of data. So you can multivariate test and you can try all different things. It's incredibly powerful as a way of doing it. And I'm always surprised that more speakers, especially performers of any sort, don't use this platform, because it's a ready-made platform for speakers.
It's crazy how you can test messages on YouTube as well. If you can find your audience to begin with and you kind of know what they're looking for, you can create 50 different ads if you wanted to and see which one resonates best with your audience. Yeah. And if you're a presenter who sells, or you're a presenter who's thinking, I want to get a lot of leads from this presentation I'm giving, or whatever kind of your back end process is for your speaking gigs, then when you think about that and you think, right, well, there's one thing which is, like, let's say, for example, engagement. Like, if you're speaking from stage, exactly the same with video, you can get a level of engagement where people were like, wow, this is such a funny presentation, or such a great story, or this is such a great, I love how you phrase that. And people can give you amazing feedback and say, that was so cool. But it doesn't mean that they're going to take action. Yeah. If you do a survey of people, it's so biased when you say, like, what did you like about this product? Because you're just saying, what do you like about it? And that doesn't necessarily translate to, will that make you get your wallet out and actually go and buy something from me? Now, not to say I'm as cold-hearted as that, but a lot of the videos that we run are direct response. We're looking to spend $1 to get more than $1 back. And when we look at engagement rates, we can get amazing engagement rates, but it's really another skill to get engagement and conversion. So some people can create these amazing videos where people are raving about them and say, oh, did you see that video from this person? It's great. And that's great for brand awareness, but it might be horrible for actual conversion of sales. Whereas some videos are like, you look at them and you think, wow, is that really what you're going to put out into the world? Okay, fine. But the ROI of those videos can be ridiculously high because you're talking to a viewer in such a way where it's just straightforward. This is the deal. This is what we've got for you. Are you ready to buy? And if people kind of are watching the video and it's relevant to them, they're much more likely to take action if you're straightforward with them. It's such a funny scenario, but it's I don't know. I always look at the ads in terms of I never try and look at the ads that we create as an agency with our clients as wouldn't this be such a nice message to put in front of someone? Like, isn't this such a nice story? Isn't it? Because that does not mean it's going to convert. And I get proven wrong so often, too often that I like to admit sometimes. But I'm open to that. I'm open to the fact that it's likely that I am wrong in most scenarios because split tests just tell me every single time. I think, oh, I've got a clear idea. I want to try this out. Lo and behold, it either does work or doesn't work. But it's never, I can never tell you whether my idea is going to work or not. And that's why I rely on the data. And so if you're speaking from stage and you're thinking, oh, I've got this bit in my presentation that everyone absolutely loved, they may well do, but be careful about whether it actually makes sales or not. But that's the beauty of YouTube is you can actually go and test that stuff out and see if people love it and convert. Or sometimes you just need to be more straightforward in your messaging to get the conversion sometimes.
And talking about that conversions, one of the challenges, I know you do a lot of B2C and B2B. So B2C, I know you've got great like guitar lessons. On the guitar lessons, you do that side. But on the B2B side, I remember speaking to some speakers before, and they said, "Oh yeah, I tried YouTube ads, and it didn't work. It didn't work for me. I couldn't see the conversions." And as I asked them a little bit kind of deeper, their conversion in their head is a $20,000 keynote, and so obviously that's one type of conversion. Now, what in the book you talk about having something which is not necessarily your end product all the time, the main thing that you're looking to do, your flagship, whether it's a keynote or your $1,000 service or product, whatever the thing is, but having this lower price thing. I'm guessing that's in order to liquidate and also in order to kind of get that data that you're looking for. Can you explain a little bit, what that would mean and how that works in a more B2B context?
Depends on like the level of B2B we're speaking about. So there's B2C, like when you go straight to consumer or to customer, and then you have B2B, which is obviously to business. And there's some that are like your business to entrepreneurial level business, and there's B to big level business. When it's big corporate level business and you're looking to get in front of that audience, sometimes you need to question whether YouTube's the right platform for that, because you might look at something like LinkedIn and you think, well, all I need to do is go and find a load of promoters and I'm good to go. and you can go and find people for your speaking gigs and just create videos specifically for them and send them to them and say, hey, you should really hire me as your next presentation or next keynote speaker. So there is that strategy, and that works very well. I've got a lot of clients through that process where we send individual videos to people through LinkedIn and Facebook and just try and say, that's the individual I want to get in front of. Here's the video for that person. And we do a lot of that because it gets the right sort of people when you know who you're targeting. And that's a big part of any business, is understanding who you want to do business with, not just what message do you have, and isolating that to begin with. But then if you go down to that more entrepreneurial level, though, you're thinking, I want to get in front of like the businesses who might be 2 to 10 people. It's a good idea to kind of think about exactly who you want to get in front of, and then think about why they would be going to YouTube, or at what points they'd be going to YouTube. Now, a good idea is something like CRMs, for example. If you're kind of a business where it's 2 to 10 people, you might be looking up tutorials around how to use something like HubSpot or Infusionsoft, or like it's that sort of like point at which your customers are going to YouTube because they will know about stuff that's relevant to them. And if you can understand what that is, you can run ads to that sort of audience, and it's likely to be the right message for that audience. But that can be sometimes a bit of a disconnect because you're thinking, right, you're getting in front of them when they're not necessarily looking for you, so you need to interrupt them. And that requires a different type of ad, and it needs to be a very well put together ad. So I'd say I wouldn't necessarily go to like a video where it's just like, hey, you should hire me as your next speaker. I'll probably go down the route of understanding how you can help that kind of customer.
So it could be like an executive director of an association, let's say, if you go speak to associations, or a meeting planner who might be a small meeting planning company, maybe 10 people, and they have challenges. They maybe have challenges around marketing their own business, for example. So there's something you could provide, aside from just the keynote speaking, in terms of just like starting to build that relationship, start that relationship going.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if someone was looking up something like how to plan a marketing event on YouTube, for example, that was like their key phrase. That's a great time to put your direct offer in front of them. And it helps if you've got some clout that can go with that as well, to say, hey, look, for every speaking engagement that I do, I tend to bring across 100 customers with me. Or I don't know, we can promote the event together. And it seems like there's a really good connect with what your sort of event is and what I can offer potentially. But yeah, I try and really think about how I can help the viewer at that point, or the person that's searching. If they're searching for information like how to market my upcoming conference or something along those lines, then that could be the perfect time to get in front of that audience and give them something really helpful to say, hey, I do speaking gigs all over the world. Here's how I filled the room, or here's what I've seen as being the best thing that's worked best at different conferences that I've been to. Something along those lines to actually genuinely help that viewer you can build a relationship with. But I would also really think about building out the brand as well. So if you're a speaker and you kind of want to get a lot of speaking gigs, you sometimes have to go that indirect route where you build the audience, you build that list, you build that kind of established brand. And so people just, whenever people say, oh, I'm looking for a speaking gig or I'm looking for speakers for my next conference, your name pops up over and over again by your audience.
And you can kind of do that. You can almost kind of do that in advance. It could be like custom audiences and things. You can start to build that kind of brand awareness maybe a month or so before you plan on reaching out to them. And I mean, YouTube has, I mean, it's in terms of being able to target, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, exactly. And there's so many different really clever strategies on how to target different audiences on YouTube. And it's all typically search-based or can be interest-based as well. So some of the new stuff coming out with YouTube is really exciting. Like you can target people based on what apps they've got downloaded onto their phone, which is pretty cool. You can target people based on recent types of places they've been to. So if they've been to the golf course or golf club recently, anywhere. So Google will know that. So they know that you checked into a golf club. And as a result, they'll kind of know that you're into your golf, and they'll put you can target people that have recently visited a spa or a golf club or a cinema or anything like that you wanted to. So there's lots of really clever strategies like that are available to all of us.
So most conferences, for example, they'll have their own app for that particular conference. So you could go and target the people that have obviously downloaded that app for that, whether it's the Salesforce conference, Dreamforce, or whatever the thing is, and you could just go and target those folks.
Yeah, precisely. I mean, as long as that app is available on the Android store right now, it's coming to iOS as well. But as long as it's on the Android store for now, then yes, you can take a list of those people who have downloaded that app. But that's exactly the right thing, right? So like I know that we use a CRM called Copper, and we've got the app for it. And there'll be a list of people that have that as well. And that means your company's normally at some sort of level where kind of you might be kind of is an indicator of the type of business that will be using that CRM. And likewise with Salesforce, you're probably looking at slightly larger companies that would be kind of like at those sorts of events, and you can advertise that group as well. But so it's your perfect audience. If they're already going to these events, you can take those lists of people and advertise to them, and they're going to get to know you very quickly as a speaker. And so it just puts you in that position to be like, you build that brand of that speaker for this type of audience, and it won't be long before people recognize you and want you to be speaking at those sorts of events.
Now, your psychology keeps coming back into it. As I was reading through the book, there was one I remember reading, which was said, you just made a very small change in the videos. If you use the word you in the first 6 seconds, I think it was, you notice that you got a higher kind of click through to that. That was the first one. I thought, oh, that's great. I'm definitely gonna use that. And then you talk about this other thing, which I loved, which is called Choose Your Own Adventure. And we're just about to start testing this. I'm really excited about testing this. So describe Choose Your Own Adventure, what the benefits are to advertisers if you're doing YouTube advertising and taking this type of course.
Yeah, okay, cool. So Choose Your Own Adventure is fundamentally like Well, I'll tell you the story behind it, and then it'll kind of give people a bit more context, I think, to the whole approach. So when we work a lot with a guitar tuition client, and we were looking through their stats of their customers and trying to understand a little bit more information about who tends to buy from them. And we saw two different types of customers for them. I mean, they're teaching guitar online, and they would have some people that would be complete newbies to guitar. Those people are buying, and they're like, I just want to, like, I've just bought a guitar, I've been bought a guitar, and now I'm learning to play. And you get this other type of audience that would be still online, like on YouTube, looking for advice because they're in a bit of a rut. They play for a while, they've hit a plateau, they can't get any better, or they're playing the same songs all the time, and they just haven't kind of really experimented with anything else, and they're just in a bit of a rut, and they can't seem to improve their guitar, and they're losing their passion a little bit. And so you get these two types of audiences. And we were thinking, well, it's really difficult to target those individuals based on their psychographics in terms of what they want. They're still typing the same sort of keywords like how to play better blues guitar, or how to play guitar online, or those types of things, how to play guitar, how to learn guitar, those sorts of things. But there would be two different types of person still typing that one type of keyword. And so we were looking at like what's possible with YouTube. And this comes down to kind of some of the creative ideas I tend to have. I realized I was kind of clearing out the attic or the loft in my parents' house, and I was looking through some of the books that I used to have as a kid. And one of the books was these choose your own adventure books, and they're kind of in the good old days where you would say, like, oh, if you want to fight the dragon, turn to page 38, or if you want to run away, turn to page 5, and then you would like read the next bit, and then you would choose your next process as well. So like normally you had an option of two or three choices as you went through the book, and then you would like have your own experience as you go through the book. And I thought, what about if we apply that to YouTube and see if we can do that with YouTube ads? And lo and behold, they brought out a new feature within inside of YouTube at a very similar time called end screens, which are kind of like annotations where basically inside of the video you can have these clickable links to other videos on YouTube, and you can have obviously links to your own videos. So now we had this ad where we'd run it and say, hey, look, I can really help you with your guitar, but let me know where you're at right now. Are you new to guitar, or are you in a rut right now? And then we said to people, instead of clicking to the website, we'd say, click one of these options, click rut or click newbie, and they'll click and it'll go through to a new YouTube video where then we can really help them with where they're at psychologically, give them really good advice, and then say, hey, look, if you like this stuff, you're going to love this online workshop we've got for you. All you need to do is go and register your name and email, and you'll get instant access, and we can start going into a lot more detail about how we can teach you to play guitar if you're in a rut or if you're a newbie. And so we just started looking at a lot more specific to the advice we can give those people based on where they're at with their guitar. And we saw the opt-in rates and the conversion rates just jump to a whole new level. And immediately we're like, wow, this is something that's working incredibly well, much better than we thought it was going to work. And we started applying it to other clients as well. And we got kind of much more knowledge about why it works and how it works, because not just that, it's like what we tend to find is like once people start interacting with your ads, they want to carry on interacting. It's like that commitment and consistency perspective from Cialdini. It's like once you make a choice, you want to continue in that same path and continue in seeing where this is going to end up. So that first interaction is really important. That first click is really important. So making it as easy as possible for people is such an important aspect. So it's easy to make a choice of A or B just out of curiosity than it is to say, I'm going to click to the website, because that feels much more salesy than it does to say, let me actually genuinely help you. Where do you want to go next? It's a very different feel to the start of the relationship as well. And all of the comments we get on the videos from Tony's, who's the guitar tutor, Tony Bolicastro, all the comments we get are amazing. Like, this is the best advertising in the world, and we love you guys, and all this. And so that was like a really nice byproduct. Normally the comments after a YouTube ad aren't that positive.
Yeah.
So it's really nice to have that, and it's just worked incredibly well. And that's a big part of how we look at YouTube now, is we can segment these audiences, give them unique experiences, and give them unique experiences through the funnel as well. And lo and behold, typically it increases the conversions. And we normally try and identify that based on the intent or the identity. Like, what is it that someone actually wants, or who are they? Are they male or female? You can do it in that type of split as well, if that's relevant to the follow-up you've got for your viewers.
So we just filmed. I think we filmed 16 videos the other day, and we filmed a choose your own adventure. We were doing it for different parts of our business, and one of the parts of our business which relates to professional speakers. And there are some speakers who are just getting started, and they're looking for a certain type of thing, and those speakers who are already speaking, and they're looking for a slightly different thing. And I really enjoyed filming them because I could really speak to that audience, and that one person I knew. Individuals who in each of those audiences I could really kind of help them. And as we're filming it, and I'm explaining this to the videographer, and he's like, "This is terrible. This is so uncreative. This is so like," and almost like his hands through his, and we did it, and he's good because he trusts me to do these stupid things and mad things, and so I'm wondering, when you're starting to work, because you have a great video team as well. When you start telling them, okay, this is what we're going to do this, and it's very data driven, and then what is the response coming back from your team that is often maybe more thinking about creating that more brand awareness style of videos?
They've got to know me very well over time. So whenever I talk to new creative people, they've got these great ideas, and we always like to test new ideas. And so we're always very, very open, and we always want to say yes to new ideas because we don't know until we test it, right? So, but the more and more data I get, the more and more boundaries they get. Because I'm like, well, guys, look, we know that this is what's working. This is what tends to work. And when we break that mold, we tend to get very varied results. So we know that we need to make sure we have some sort of call to action quite early on in the video. We need to let people know it is an ad. Because if those people want to skip, great, so be it. Let them skip. And we also need to be left with the high quality people. We need to make sure that it feels easy for the viewer to take the next step. And so we end up finding that our boundary is so closed in sometimes that it feels like there's no creative space. But the great thing about boundaries is it allows people to be really creative. That's the beauty of creative work, really, is that if you're given no boundaries, you can end up just getting procrastinating, not coming out with ideas because it's just there's nothing to grab hold of sometimes in terms of a really clever idea. So I normally say to the team, okay, guys, this is the data, that's the stats. It's not me that's telling you this, it's the data that's telling you this. I'm just reporting it to you, and it's not an interpretation of the data. It's like, here's the cold hard facts, and let's look at this and interpret this together. And look at what it really means. And in the end, the creative team absolutely love it because they know the output's going to be so much better from a response. And they've got to remember that's the name of the game most of the time. It's not to create this beautiful piece. Whilst we love beautiful videos and stuff, it needs to convert first. So we know we start with the idea and the scripts and the storyboard needs to make sure this is going to sell this product or sell this idea or sell this education first. Make sure people are we know that's the kind of the focus that we want to be really zeroing in on. Once we've got that, it's like, great, now let's take a day or two to make this really creative. How do we do that? How do we do this next step? But we don't stray too far away from that core concept and that core idea of what we're really trying to get across from a sales perspective, because that's most important to get results. But then to be creative at that point is the next stage. And that's sometimes a bit more difficult to get right in terms of teaching people, but some of the ideas the team come up with these days are just so good that we run with it, and it feels like a bit more of a black box, that side of things. Like when you get a really good creative team and they're on board with looking at the data first, that does make your life a lot easier as an agency, because you realize, okay, cool, I'm going to put the parameters in place and the boundaries in place. You guys do your magic within these boundaries, and we're going to do very, very well.
And talking about boundaries, you didn't speak about it so much in the book, but I've heard you talk about this before. We're kind of moving into this next stage in terms of YouTube, where essentially the algorithms are doing a better job than the humans at choosing what to show and how to show it. So I'm guessing, how is so you obviously have the let's say the general creators, people that are filming the videos with you, and there's one group of people, and then you have someone like you, which is really a strategist and an architect on doing this, and now you have these AIs coming in that are helping all different parts of this. So how is your role changing now with this, the role of more algorithm-driven machine learning in YouTube advertising?
So right now, it hasn't taken over just yet. AI is such an important aspect, and we're kind of always testing what AI can do. And At the highest level, we can spend anywhere between $15,000 to $20,000 a day on advertising with AI supporting us with a client account. And that's like, I would consider that high spend. I've got a lot of advertising buddies who do a lot more than that. And they're normally working on different platforms like Facebook and TV and radio and things. So that's another level. But for YouTube, anything above $5,000 a day is big spend, in my opinion. Not to say that anything less than that's not high spend. It's just that that's kind of a benchmark for me. And as soon as you get to that point, you've got to start borrowing some of the AI capabilities, in my honest opinion, because so I normally look at it as 2 or 3 phases. The first phase is just be as relevant as possible. So, and this is going to go from anywhere between $0 per day or 10 cents per day, maybe, or something like really low spend, up to maybe like, let's say, $2,500 a day, that sort of area, where you're being super relevant and you're being as relevant as possible. So you're going to say, right, here's the customer moment. This is the keyword they're typing in, or the range of keywords they're typing in. And when I know that it's this type of person typing in these types of keywords, I'm going to know what I want to say to that person. So if you know that like your audience, give me an example of something you think your audience might be typing in. It doesn't have to be for your business. It could be for someone else's business.
Let's say, for example, let's talk about guitar lessons. That's good. Actually, drum lessons. I'm a drummer, so let's talk about drum lessons instead. Instead of the guitar players always get all the good ads. So let's talk about drum lessons. Let's say I'm that person. I'm a little bit older. I'm not a beginner drummer, but I'm looking to kind of get back. My playing's kind of stuck in a rut, like you were kind of talking about. Where would you go from there?
Great. Okay. So I would have a real good think about what people on YouTube are actually typing in for that. So a newbie wouldn't be typing in certain techniques for drumming. There is a technique called a paradiddle, is there not?
There is indeed.
Okay, you can see how musical.
You know far too much about drumming already.
So I remember a close buddy of mine teaching me a paradiddle when I was like 13 or something. So I was like, and it's the most difficult thing in the world to learn, as well, in my opinion. And I'm sure that's just a beginner's level. But you could, like, let's say for example, there's a type of paradiddle that people are learning, or there's a certain type of technique that newbies wouldn't be learning, but people in a rut would be learning, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Or how to play a certain song maybe with your drums, or I don't know. I don't know enough about drumming to really understand.
Let's imagine that someone's a little bit older and they want to play Toto. For Africa, a song by Africa by Toto. That gives away their age. How to play drums from Toto. That kind of probably gives away their age as well.
Got it. Okay, perfect. That's if I hear coming on dancing straight away, so I appreciate that. So you want to play Toto by Africa, great. Then you might say, great, how to play that on the drums? Then you might say, great, that's my audience. Anyone who wants to play Toto Africa on the drums, you're going to say that becomes your key phrase or your keyword. You're going to own that.
Yeah.
And you're going to have a video ad specifically about, hey, if you're going to want to play Toto by Africa, I've got a whole breakdown of exactly how to play that. I'm going to take you from step 1 to step 2. It's 10 steps in total. I'll show you, and by the end of today, you'll be playing it like an absolute genius or something. Click here, go and download the free trainings, and you're going to absolutely love it. Something along those lines. So it's just like really straightforward, but you're being so relevant to that viewer, they think, oh, okay, well, this is crazy not to go and do that. So they go and sign up. By the end of the day, they're playing Toto Africa because your training is amazing. And it's like, hey, look, at the end of that whole training, like, obviously you've just learned one song. What about if you could play all songs that are just like this, and you rattle off all the other songs that you'd love to play as well? And you say, well, in order to do that, you need to understand the fundamentals, or you need to understand exactly how to play the drums at a whole nother level. And I'm going to teach you some really clever strategies and techniques that's going to help you become a really amazing drummer very, very quickly. And then you sell the next course up. Now, what I'm a big fan of is that kind of relevancy in the ad campaigns. So they've typed in something about how to play drums, Toto Africa. You've got an ad that sells that thing. You've got a product that sells that thing. And then your product is a natural next step. Sometimes people feel like they have to be amazing copywriters and salesmen in order to get good conversions. And it's not true at all. You just need to be relevant, and you need to make it easy for clients or customers. You just need to make it so easy for them to say yes. That it's just like, okay, like, that was such an easy purchase. Like, I know on Amazon, for example, I just hold down my thumb and I know it's going to be at my door the next day. That's crazy easy for me to purchase products. Too easy in some cases, because I end up buying stuff that I probably shouldn't be buying. But it's just too easy just to put your thumb there. And likewise, the same way, that's whilst Amazon is a whole other level of company to most companies, you need to think about, all right, what is going to be a really sexy thing to go and kind of get? What's the next logical step? But how do you make it really, really damn easy to go and do that? So it's just making that user experience so easy to take the next step that your conversion rates will shoot through the roof. And then your products and what you're selling to people are so good that they want to go and buy more and more from you as well. It's just a natural next step. So that's my advice for a lot of people when it comes to YouTube, is in that kind of $0 to $2,500 a day spend. If you want to be really profitable, focus on being super, super relevant. Don't try and create an ad that is going to make everyone happy. Just go for a really niched in audience and say, I've got the perfect message for those people that are typing in those types of keywords, and that can scale pretty well. And you can just build a funnel around that to then get to your first product. And then you say, right, now Toto Africa is done on YouTube. What's the next one? What's the next song that you want to help people with? What's the next thing you want to what's the next thing they're struggling with? It might be like a certain type of technique on the drum. It might be another song. It might be anything that you can think of. It's right, another ad, another like product, and then that leads on to the second product, which is the generic product for all people who have learned that first step with you. And then just keep on repeating that process, because you're keeping that huge relevancy and you're just building out more and more. Now, sometimes that can scale to a huge amount per day, and you don't need to even worry about AI. But once you've got that kind of that cadence and those good conversions coming through, and the data is going through your pixels in terms of YouTube and Google are understanding exactly who your customer tends to be, then you can say, okay, now we want to start going for some of the broader targeting options, not necessarily just keywords now, but maybe topics and in-market audiences and affinity audiences and some of these apps that we were talking about before. And as soon as you start to understand what other levels of targeting work, you're going to want to start using the AI to support you on that. And start running some of your keyword campaigns with the AI involved as well. So as soon as you start rolling out to that level, then Google and YouTube really scale very, very quickly. If you have a really good campaign, you've got some good CPA margins in terms of you say, right, I'm happy to generate a customer for $100, then and you're acquiring customers for $70, for example, already, then the AI is going to be like, great, let's go to town and let's get you huge amounts of scale, and you can just really, really grow your company very, very quickly. You just need to be really clear on those numbers. But you end up kind of working in such a way where you say to Google, okay, I want to generate a sale for less than whatever price you say. And if it can do it, and it can do it at scale, then that's when the AI really comes into its own.
And is there I mean, you mentioned that lower price thing, like $70. Is there a price range that you found for that lower price thing, so you're getting enough data, and there's enough conversions going on in order to feed the machine learning so it can properly learn?
Yeah, I'm always looking to try and promote an offer between $25 and $75. I think if you can sell a product between that range, and that's American dollars or USD, when you're at that range, it's a perfect price point to have a significant purchase and get some good cash in from your advertising. But it's also psychologically not a level that's normally requiring a conversation with somebody else in order to make that purchase.
Yeah.
If I'm gonna buy something for more than $500 and it's a product at home, then I normally have a chat with my wife first. I say, hey, what do you think of this? Do you think we should buy it? Great, let's go and get it. And it's like it's a joint decision. And I don't need to have a conversation, but I would like to have a conversation with my wife, and I'd like her to do the same thing with any large purchase as well.
Yeah. That
we know we'll both be investing in. When it's $75 or $25, that's just a buy it, and that's kind of like, we trust each other to make purchases that are at that level. Yeah. And I'm sure everyone's the same.
It's like a stick of gum when you go to the checkout. It's just an impulse buy. I remember when I used to work in California in Silicon Valley, and we always had an amount that was it was a recurring. We were in subscription businesses, recurring businesses, and there was always an amount we thought that will get through, and it was our customers mostly men. And so there was a price that we thought that we find, and it will go through on the credit cards without his partner, wife, whatever, girlfriend getting upset about it. And it was like that figure. And we at one point we went over that amount. We increased the price of this particular product a little bit over, and we really saw the sales drop off from it as well, because it was just there's that mental thing. Oh, it's like $25 a month or whatever the thing. That's fine. We'll just put it through as that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I like to think of it as like one level up above a impulse buy. So it's not like you're right in terms of the psychology behind it.
Yeah, it's not like a $7 thing, but it's just that next one up.
Yeah, exactly. It's that kind of like, oh, that's okay, cool. I can buy that.
Yeah.
It's just that kind of like there's a level of like you're acquiring a good customer. So there has to be a certain level of passion in the project in order to go and buy that. Like say for example, it's drumming. Then so if someone's going to spend $50 with you on your training for drumming, then it's like, okay, that's a relatively significant purchase for the drumming world, because normally most products in that kind of area might be a lot less than that potentially, or there'll be a lot of free stuff on YouTube as well. So you've got to show them why your drumming kind of expertise and why learning from you would be is worth $50, and worth spending that $50. But obviously that's where your previous product or your freebie product will convince them of that.
It helps.
So but I love that kind of $50 range because you're getting a lot of data through it, through that purchase, and Google therefore can start to optimize for that as well. If it was at the $7 range, you could probably make it work on AI, but you're going to find that it's going to be tough to say to the AI, can you get sales in for less than $7 or something like that. That's a tough ask, and it's much easier to say, I'm looking for slightly less volume, but I'm happy to give you $50 for each sale. That makes it easier for the AI to work to that level. But then again, if you went for if you're selling a $2,000 program, I wouldn't I would say still sell it, of course, but I'll put something in before if you want to really benefit from the AI capabilities on YouTube, because you're not going to get enough data going through the $2,000 product in order for Google to really optimize on that. So you want to get the volume of data, but you also want to get quality data. And that's why $25 to $75 seems to be like the sweet spot for most product sales. And you can say, right, I want to gear up my whole account to make that purchase. And however I'm going to do it, I'm going to run people through a different type of funnel, maybe free stuff first or straight to sale, whatever it is you might be doing. But you're saying to the whole account, let's just sell this product over and over and over again, and the AI will learn a lot about your customers doing it that way.
And the one that we're the one we were just about to test, so I'll let you know how it goes. We do these evergreen online summits, which are in that exactly ones. There's 27 and 47, and then 47 and 67, depending on whether it's a one-time offer. And so it'll be interesting to see how that starts to, what the numbers, and if the AI starts to learn it. So I'll update you, and I'll update the listeners to see how it goes as well. As you've been building your career in YouTube, was there a key insight or a light bulb moment that you've had where you went, oh, okay, this is the direction I want to be going with my agency. This is how I can really serve my clients best?
Yeah, I feel like YouTube's been a really good platform for us. It feels like no one's really cracked it, and I feel that was a light bulb moment when it's not an easy platform, YouTube. It's not a simple case of just going there and getting success on day one. It's not easy, but it can be quite simple. Slight difference there.
So it's complex, not complicated.
Precisely, yeah, exactly. So it's the theory of it is you're saying when someone goes to YouTube and they're searching for something, let's create an ad purely for that person and sell them something that's super relevant to that. That bit makes total sense to a lot of people. They're like, oh wow, I don't even need to be a real good salesperson here. I just need to be super relevant. Yeah. I can do that. That's no problem. They can almost map out exactly how the strategy would work. So for that, I feel like would be a really kind of key part of any campaign. And so theoretically, that makes a lot of sense, and people get the strategy behind it. And that's why it's different to someone like Facebook, where you're getting in front of people based on their interests, and it's one news feed where everyone's competing there. That's a lot different and more difficult than it would be on YouTube. So it's simpler to understand that concept on YouTube. It's just video creation is the only thing you've got. You haven't got images and text ads typically on YouTube. You can run some, but it's primarily you're going to get the most result by creating video, and that's daunting and complicated for some people. Again, it doesn't need to be. There's simple ways of scripting videos, and it doesn't have to be whiz-bang videos in order to have a really profound impact and sell really effectively. But again, I don't know, lighting, audios, camera, being confident on video, knowing how to put it all together, that can feel daunting when you're going into video advertising. And then the second thing is you've got to work with the AdWords platform, or now known as the Google Ads platform. And that's kind of daunting in itself, like working with pixels and understanding how the targeting works, campaigns, ad groups, video ads, linking, UTM links. All of this stuff can seem really daunting. Once you've seen it when you've just seen someone do it and show you what to do, it's like, oh, that's actually a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. And you get it if you've been taught properly. And so immediately the whole thing comes together. And it's just that. What you tend to find is it takes two parts of your brain that most people don't ever engage that much. So you have creatives who are really, really good at creating really clever scripts and amazing ads. And that's brilliant. If they've been trained on the data of what happens on YouTube, all the better. Like, they're going to be able to create really, really good YouTube ads. And then you've got the AdWords side of it, or the kind of the more technical, geeky level, which is kind of like those people very rarely really kind of get into a creative zone. They're more like, hey, I'm technical, I can set this stuff up and run really effective campaigns. And never the two really meet that often. You never see like a real technical person and a creative person sitting down and having a pint at a pub. It's rare that happens. And so I force it. I'm like, great, guys, all get together. What does the data say? What do the creators want to do? How do we integrate that? And that's where I feel like we have some of the best learnings from our standpoint. And one of the biggest light bulb moments for us is that is our thing. That's what we're really good at, is understanding that creative mix and that advertising mix. And we've just stayed in that zone, and not many people do YouTube. It feels like it's this huge platform that everyone's like, great, I get the concept of it, don't know how to do the first thing. And we just slot nicely into a lot of agencies, because there's not an agency normally that says, we do really good on Facebook and Google and YouTube. It's normally YouTube is like the one that's left behind because everyone like hates it because it's difficult to get the results there.
It's the ugly sister. And actually what you're saying just now also fits in. I was speaking last week in South America, and a good friend of mine, Scott Hartley, was speaking, and there's an expression at Stanford University called the fuzzies and the techies. So you're either a fuzzy, you're doing your social sciences, or you're a techie, you're doing your computer sciences. And his whole thesis is very much that we're seeing, especially with the rise of AI, we're starting to see this blend of people that are going to not just survive but thrive in this new age are going to be people that can blend those two things, the creative and the analytical. So you're right, exactly where things are going. So I love that. And also in the book you explain all the different types of ads you can do. So there's all that information's in there as well. As we start to finish up just now, I'd like to some quick fire questions. If you were to recommend like just some tools for people if they're getting into this space, what are some simple tools that people could, apps or tools for their computers that could be useful as they start developing their campaigns? Yeah,
something I think is for developing good creative, a book called Made to Stick is a really, really good book. I really love Influence by Cialdini as well, and I feel like they're based on solid influence campaigns. So those two books in particular, I think, can really help with a creative mix of understanding actually what works with video, and applying those techniques and those principles to video really helps with the conversion rates. So that's something that's really, really important. In terms of tools and things, I always find it's like we use one tool 1 month and then we look at it and it's like, we upgrade or we change or we get rid of a tool. So there's never anything that we kind of are constantly using apart from some editing software, things like Premiere Pro and Final Cut. Final Cut is a kind of something that we use on a regular basis as well. But then it's just like simply getting into AdWords and getting into the nitty gritty and just understanding it. So no tools there, unfortunately, that really help out. We've developed tools inside of our programs and our training that really speeds up the whole process for all the people. But that feels like it's a sales pitch, and it's not meant to be. So, yeah.
And we're gonna have links here as well. But before we, kind of final question I have for you. I want you to imagine that tomorrow morning you have to restart everything. You have to start from scratch. You've got all the skills, all the knowledge you've acquired over the years, but no one knows you. You know that when you have to completely restart. What would you do? How would you restart things?
That's a good question. I've always been a results-based agency, so we. A lot of the time we don't get anything up front and we get paid on results. And I feel like that would be the easiest way of starting to get new customers and really helping them as well. So if you're good at your craft, then I'm a big advocate for doing free up front and getting paid on results, because you can normally strike a better deal long term as well. But it's a kind of no risk offer, right? If you say, hey, look, we're going to run this, we're going to build it all, and we'll give you the best kind of service we can. And if it works, great. We've got a long-term relationship together. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I'm a big fan of that whilst you're building your brand and building everything. Sometimes remain in that. That's what we do. We tend to not ask for too much up front. We keep it real low level and start kind of early and then build up from there. But I'll just be very, very careful about like looking back at what we've done in the past. Like we used to say yes to a lot of different customers and clients, and I'm pretty sure I hate kind of ever offering a bad service, or I don't think anyone likes doing that. But I feel like that's kind of, I've always wanted to keep like levels of excellence up there. But now we qualify customers a lot more. So But who do we end up working with is a lot more of a bigger question. And it's like getting that right in the start, whilst it's sometimes difficult because you want to say yes to a lot of things, saying no a lot more and waiting for the right opportunities would be something I'd strive to try and do if I started from scratch again.
Steve Jobs asked Joni Ive one question every day, which was, how many times have you said no today? That was his focusing question, getting into, you have to be saying no. And if people want to learn more about the book and also your agency, about viewability, where's the best place for them to go and do that?
Yeah, so the website is viewability.co.uk. And on the website, there's all the information about the book, the courses, and everything else that people would be interested in, I believe. And of course, Viewability, the book, is also on Amazon in the US and the UK. So, and I think it's worldwide as well. So you can go and do your kind of like search on Amazon and find Viewability, the book's there, and it'll be shipped out, I don't know, on Prime or however it all works. I don't tend to get too involved with that side of things. I'm just agency focused right now. But yeah, everything's there, and it's a great way of getting to understand exactly how YouTube works, and for your own company, or if you want to start running YouTube ads yourself, or other companies as like a freelance, or a kind of if you're already doing video for people, kind of just gives you that kind of focus on how this could work to build out a company doing it as well.
Great, and it's a fantastic book. I've evangelized to all of my team about this book, and we've been starting to implement it as well. I highly encourage people to go and check it out, get their copy. Also, some brilliant resources the links to as well. You can, if you want to go a little bit deeper. Tom, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been an absolute kind of pleasure speaking to you about everything that you're doing. You're doing some really cool things. You're right at that intersection between the fuzzies and the techies. And I wish you all the best as you build your agency.
Thank you so much, James. It's been great to be on the call.
If you're interested in living a more creative life, then I'd love to invite you to join me as I share some of the most successful strategies and techniques that high-performing creatives use. I put them all together in a free downloadable ebook that you can get by going to jamestaylor.me. That's jamestaylor.me to get your free downloadable ebook on creativity.